Uh, I just want to welcome Mable Sharp coming today. And this is the September OCB and dural tube study group for the exam. And we are meeting next month, October 22nd at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. We are going to have a new topic change. We're going to be doing the hard palate. And then at this point, I'm turning everything over to Mable so that you guys can ask all of your questions.
Hello. Hi. For those of
Hi.
you who don't know me, and I don't see anybody else, so I can't tell you who's looking at me and who isn't. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mable Sharp. I live in Detroit, Michigan, and I have a practice in a suburb just outside of Detroit. I have, I guess, three hats I wear for the Institute. I'm an instructor. I teach CranioSacral 1. I teach the certification preparation class, and also the presenters class. I am the ombudsman for CranioSacral 1, and I'm also the ombudsman for the certification process for techniques level. So that's where I'm at this point. So I don't know if you want me to do a brief overview or if you want me to, what would you like for me to do? Or just have them ask their questions or?
What I can do, this is Michelle, what I can do is share with you what some of the questions are that have been coming up. There's been a little confusion with the new Thomas Rasmussen study as to what is going to be needed for the all three parts of the exam, practical, written, as well as the objective. And I think also at what point, if somebody's working on their exam, is that going to change? Like, when is that expected? I think that's been the biggest thing. There's been a little confusion, I think, with the students, and because some of the other information is actually being shared in class. So everybody's getting a little bit nervous, Mable.
Okay, well, let me say this. It's not just about Thomas Rasmussen's research study. It's about research studies that have been done from years ago, but also from the last 20 years or more. And there have been some discussions since 2017 about what kind of research can we do or find that supports craniosacral therapy as to the whys and the whens and the whats. And Thomas, as our research director, has been developing a lot of that information and bringing together a lot of different research. The research basically is related to the how and why craniosacral therapy may work. And so basically the areas we're concerned about is rhythms. How is the craniosacral rhythm generated within the body? And Dr. Upledger, of course, proposed the pressure stat model. There are some other research that shows that that's only part of it. And so there's some new and different information that we have been looking at and reviewing as to that. Another thing has to do with cerebral spinal fluid flow, what really contributes to the production and flow of cerebral spinal fluid. Dr. Upledger again proposed the pressure stat model, but we're finding that there are other things that are involved, such as the autonomic nervous system. And also one of the latest articles that have come out talk about brain waves during sleep, increasing the production of cerebral spinal fluid. So we're trying to put all this information together to see how it supports or what is new that can be added to the existing information. And this is what's been going on since about 2018, rather. So there is a committee, the COC is the Committee on Curriculum, I think is the actual name for it, that has been looking into it. A lot of information has been shared over the years with the instructors, particularly Cranial 1 instructors, because that's where we see the most of this being a problem, being needed to be changed, revised, updated, enhanced. And so with that in mind, there have been a number of instructors and others that have been sending information back and forth, working with the COC. And now the COC is coming up with its revisions to the study guide. That will be presented to the instructor staff on November the 19th. What will come from that, I have no idea. Whether they'll say, this is what you're going to teach and here's how you're going to teach it, or yeah, we have to go back to the drawing board and make a few more adjustments and changes, I don't know. So at this point, as of today, nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed or should have been changed, because we gave the instructors about a year and a half, 2 years ago, a little sheet for which they would begin to introduce the fact that there are going to be, or possibly, some changes related to rhythms, related to sutures, related to cerebrospinal fluid flow. And that just keep in mind and keep abreast of when these changes are coming through. It seems that maybe some have done more than that. I don't know. But to assure you at this point in time, there are no changes. When there are changes that will be made in the material that we will be teaching, the Institute will put together a plan of action as to how to update and bring all those that have come before up to date on the information. They have not said how that's going to be yet and what it's going to be. Number one, there will be a new study guide for sure. And I think they're hoping and looking that January, 2025 will be when this new information will be presented. But it depends on what happens at the November meeting with the instructors. But one of the things I can say to help you at least see what will be or what they're looking at is, once these changes have been made in the study guide, a new study guide will be put on the website. And if you're a medallion member, you can go on the website and you can get a new study guide, or you can just print off the new pages or things that are different. It's up to you. So that's one way at this point you can start to be updated. Another is to TA, particularly a Cranial 1, because that's where most of this new information is coming into Cranial 1. So at this point, those are the suggestions that I have. But my sense is that probably some of these new lectures will be videoed and then put on the website, and you can hear them as well as read about them and so forth. But I don't know, that's not my decision to make, but that would be one way that I would suggest that we try to keep people in the loop and updated once the changes have indeed been made. At this point, again, because there are no changes that have been made, there are no changes in the certification process. The certification process goes as it has always gone. The objective test still has the same questions, because those questions, some of them will have to be taken off. I'm sure some of the new ones will have to be put on. The process for doing that is the committee. We have a committee, and even instructors can send in questions. Those questions are reviewed. We send them out. People look at them. They like them. They don't like them. I don't think that this is the answer, that's the answer. It will take at least 1 to 2 years before that process can change. That's my estimation based on changes that we've made in the past. The essay exam, again, there will be changes in the essay exam. We don't know what they are yet, so some of the questions will remain the same. Some of the questions will be new or enhanced or revised. And again, we're talking at least another year or so. That's my thought on the matter. One thing that will not change in this process is we will not, the techniques have not changed. The techniques of the 10-step protocol, the techniques that you get in CranioSacral 2, the interoral work and the sphenobasilar, they've not changed. The biggest thing is the how and the why. Do we think we get what we get? And so that's where the changes will be coming, not in any of the techniques. The techniques will be the same. We did, as we went through there, looked at doing some revisions on a couple of techniques, and one of them has to do with, what's the word I want to say? One of them has to do with just explaining the techniques a little bit more closely, like dural tube rock and glide. You know, when do you use just one hand? When do you use both hands and direction? So we've kind of updated some of that information, but the techniques are still the same, just being a little bit more specific. And so I would say that probably for the next year to 2 years, the process is pretty much going to stay the same until we've been able to get the information out to the new people as to what I shouldn't say older ones, but those of us who've had the classes before, what the new information is and however the Institute decides to do that. And therefore then revising the objective and the essay exam. And those things can take a while because people just don't want to agree. A lot of people like wordsmithing. I think we should use and instead of but. I think we should use this instead of that, you know, and it just delays the process. But for now, and so my thought is that if you want to get certified, you know, push it within the next year, at least, or 2 at the very most, before they start asking for new or additional information.
So this is a good
That's
time to
my thought.
expedite your goals, you're saying.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I have a couple questions with that. So, and I'm guessing that you still just don't know yet from what you're saying, that you don't know that the study guide and the exam will be done at the same time.
I know that they will not be done at the same time.
Okay.
That I do know because I'm in charge of putting the exam together.
Okay.
And until the study guide comes out and they say, this is the material that we will be teaching, then it's going to be my job to say, okay, committee, this is the material. Here are exam questions that I think we need to omit. Now we need some new ones. Send me in some new ones. Then I'm going to go over them and have some people go over them, and then we send them back to the committee. Then the committee reviews them and says, no, I think we ought to say this, and no, I think we ought to say, and then until we finally get them all done. And then once we get them done, we have to develop what I'm calling a rubric in educational terms, in which you look at the components of the answer. So if I give you a question, I've got 5 things I'm looking for. And then I put those in a rubrics. If you get all 5, you get total points. If you get, you know, because 85 is a passing. So what is 85% of that total points? If you get those. So we put them in a rubric. That way it's very easy for anyone to evaluate it and for you to look at your exam afterwards. So that's going to have to be done for the essay exam. And for the 40-question objective test, we will have to go through the questions that we have, determine which ones need to be thrown out because they no longer, and then what new ones can we ask? And that whole process starts with that again. So they won't be coming out at the same time. And that I can assure you that what's in the study guide will not be coming out as questions or new information for the certification process. That's going to
And
be a couple years down the road.
so how will the established students, we'll call them, know when the different expectations for the exam happen? Do you know
That's
that yet?
the Upledger is going to have to notify people, and how they decide to notify them. For it, like I said, the first thing they have to notify them is that there are changes. And like I said, if you want to get ahead of the game, the quickest way is to TA or get a copy of the new study guide that will be coming out soon if everything goes okay in this November meeting. But it's going to be at least a year to 2 years before that information gets incorporated into the certification process. So that's why I'm saying if you want to go with where you're at and you're in good shape, get it done within the next year. And what they will tell you, again, once the information comes out, the Institute will set timelines on when they're going to and how they're going to present the new information to us established therapists. And then we'll be, based on that, we'll be setting timelines on when the certification process will change. We may say as of January 2027, the process will change with new questions for the essay and additional new questions for the objective, because I cannot see that because the techniques are the same, there won't be really any changes in the practical exam, because that's going to be the same. Now, maybe some of the questions they ask you on that oral practical may change based on the new information, but the techniques are not going to change because there are no new techniques. So we're looking for maybe 2 to 3 years down the road for this whole process to take hold, but it will be the Institute's decision as to when the new information will be taught using the new study guide. And then once we've got that going, then we'll meet and say, okay, how long do we think it's going to take us to change the process? I don't know if they will say, okay, let's put a hold on certification right now. And then in a year or two, once we've got the process changed and the exams change, we'll reinstate it. Or if they're going to say, okay, for whoever gets in under the old stuff before the date that we set for the new stuff, that's all the administration for a UI to do. They make those decisions, I don't. And as far as I know, we have not really discussed any of that other than it's down the road for certification.
And is there enough new stuff that it's going to be sprinkled basically throughout that study guide? Or
Not
would it
really.
be or would it be able to be in a packet for people that were established students to be able to just get a packet? Like maybe
I
like
don't know.
some
That
safe.
again is something that the Institute will
Okay.
have to decide how they want to disseminate the new information. If they want to disseminate it as one book or the study guide, or if they want to put it in various things. If they want to have the lectures that are related to the new information being taped and then put on the website. I can't answer those things because that's not my decision to make. That's the UI's decision to determine how they're going to do this. So I really don't know. I can't really answer that.
Well, there's my suggestion if you're able to.
Oh yeah. Well, we're all going to have suggestions on how to get through it. And your suggestion again is, let me write it down so I don't lose it in my mind.
Well, it depends, because if there's enough information that is changed that it's several different parts of the
Okay.
book, then that's
Well,
not possible.
it depends on how they put it together. I had a group of Cranio 1 instructors, and based on the last meeting we had as a group of instructors, and some of the problems and controversies of, who's right and who's wrong, which is not the way to look at it. And that's what I was saying. Our group got together and we decided that we would produce something that we could give to the COC, because they're the ones who make the decisions on curriculum. And what we decided to do was we decided to look at the history, Dr. John, and wanting to keep his stuff alive, and how does this stuff either fit with what he said, and now we have more information, or is this new and additional to what he has said? And that's what it seems to me, is that we're looking at more than just one way to generate cerebrospinal fluid. We're looking at more than one way that the body produces rhythms. And those are the big things, is the cerebrospinal fluid production, not so much the flow, because there's not been any change in what we have always been teaching about, how it goes through the venous sinuses and then out through the jugular veins. And of course, we've added over the last several years the whole idea of the cisterns in the cranial nerves and so forth. But that isn't the change. The change is going to come about what produces cerebrospinal fluid, what mechanisms within the body. Dr. Upledger says it's this pressure change. And we have pressure receptors all over the body, not just in the cranium and in the head. There's, like I said, the research that says the autonomic nervous system. If you're in fight or flight, they have found out that cerebrospinal fluid production is decreased, versus if you're more in the parasympathetic sympathetic balance. So that may play a role. There's like 3 or 4 different possibilities of what is added to the pressure stat model or may supersede the pressure stat model. So that's one area. Another is about rhythms. And one area is about cerebrospinal fluid. The other area really is a bit more about osseous restrictions. Dr. Upledger's research when they were at Michigan State just basically looked at the CranioSacral, the cranial bones not fusing. But the more research we've had and the more better instrumentation we've been able to see, we've come to see that some of that is not true. And there are 6 or 7 stages of suture fusion, from totally fused to totally open. And there are some things that help to make that determination, like diet, exercise, stress, all that kind of stuff. So then the question is, if we're feeling what we have always called a sutural or osseous restriction, and if we're not indeed separating the sutures, what is it that we're feeling? And some of the research has talked about its tension within the bones on either side of the suture bones, and or the dural tension of the dura that's underneath the bone, and what they call the pericranium dura, which is above the bone. And that's what we're loosening, and not so much necessarily moving the bones apart. So those are the 3 big areas. There's really nothing else. Everything else is pretty much, but then it's how they're going to incorporate that with what we already know, with what Dr. Upledger said, how much of the history are we having, and so forth and so on. There was a little discussion about left or right brain activity. We talked about that. And there has been some research that there really isn't a left side of the brain and a right side of the brain, and they act differently, but rather right and left side brain activity, But then I just went to a And that's something I'm going to bring up. I went to Gil Headley does a lot of the dissection, and I went to one of his things they had here in Detroit recently, and he was saying that when they dissected the corpus callosum and they looked at the fibers that moved from the right side to the left side of the brain, that they were inhibitory fibers. And so what does that say? If we inhibit activity that might be intuitive or open, that the left side of the brain doesn't get that, and so now it becomes more logical. I don't know if you can make that assumption, but that's a thought that we had. So maybe there is a left and right brain function versus the right and the left brain that only do certain functions. So that was another small area, and I don't think anybody had a real big difficult time with that. I think the biggest thing were rhythms and cerebrospinal fluid and the pressure step model. So it depends on how they put it together in the study guide, that they might be able to just pull those pages out. You know, okay, here's this and here's this and here's this, and put them into some sort of little booklet or something that could be sent, rather than individuals getting the whole study guide. But I actually think getting the whole study guide is a much better idea, because you can see how it's placed within the whole system of things and where things go and how one thing leads to another. But that's certainly one way, is by having some sort of packet that they can either distribute or people can ask for or whatever. So there are all kinds of things, and I certainly will bring that up.
Yeah, I think it depends on how it fits in there, or if it fits,
Because
or if
I
you just
haven't seen
staple
it
together
yet.
some pages.
Yeah, I haven't even seen it yet. So I won't see it. I have a meeting with the COC on November the 4th, and then the meeting with the whole entire faculty on the 19th of November. So I don't even know what it looks like yet.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and updating us. Linda and Julia, Dorian, do you guys have any questions for Mable?
I'd be more than happy.
I have a question on what you just said, Mabel, about the dural tube rock and glide.
Yes.
Is one, you can do it with one hand? I mean, I thought I was taught two hands.
No, you have two hands there, but one technique only nudges with one hand at one time, and the other technique nudges with both hands at the same time. So like if you're doing the rock and you're getting this, both hands do the nudging. So when it goes into this mode, nudge. When it goes into this mode, nudge. So
Right.
that's both hands doing the nudging. When you're doing the glide, it's one hand at a time. At the end of the flexion, you nudge the sacrum. And then at the end of extension, you nudge the occiput. So both hands are not nudging at the same time. And that's where some of the confusion came in. So that's why we just reset it. So it will state in the rock that both hands are nudging at the same time in the same direction, both bones. And in the glide, one hand is nudging, and that's the hand that is leading. So in flexion, the sacrum is nudged only, and then in extension, the occiput is nudged only. So that's the clarification of the technique, because some people weren't getting that and they were confused. So that's why I just mentioned the handedness is changed.
Right. Thank you. That's clear.
Does that help?
It's very much. And, I watched one of your videos and really learned my rock and glide from you. So, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Do you have her voice in your head when you think about it now?
Right.
Anybody else?
So
Anything else?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, So on my exam, it just says, what is a release? So I want to know, is that like a somatoemotional release, or is it like a regional tissue release? Is it an occipital release? Like, should I say all of them?
Okay, the techniques class only covers things in cranial 1 and cranial 2. So we really don't get into SER stuff. So when we do diaphragms, we talk about how the tissues release. You know, they release with heat or relaxation or whatever. And what does that mean? Mm-hmm. When we get into looking at cranial bones or more osseous, what does that mean? What is the release that we feel there?
Okay, so
So
difference between
you could,
releases.
but I think from where we were going with that, it's just a generic, what is a release? When I'm on somebody's head, when I'm on somebody's diaphragm, when I'm doing fascial glide, when I'm doing dural tuber, how do I know when I get a release? What is a release? What does that feel like?
Well, it's like it's a viscous compliance, like
Okay. A release is a it means that the restriction is no longer there. That's what a release is. That's it.
oh,
And that release can be felt differently in different places. When the tension is no longer there or it's lessening, we call that a release.
yeah, but it could
Now
be an
that
osseous release or a fascial release.
yeah, and that lack of tension can be felt differently in different structures, such as in the diaphragm. We feel these things. If we're working in the cranium and we have what we would consider an osseous release, what does that feel like? But the term release in itself means just a letting go of the tension. And we sense it in different ways, you know, when we're at different parts or on different places in the body. And so you can give the generic release, and when I'm doing diaphragms or what it's felt, this is the way it feels. Or when I'm doing cranial and I've got an osseous, this is the way it feels when it lets go. Not what the restriction itself feels like, but what does it feel like once that I know that I have the release? What am I sensing in my hands? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad that I asked that.
Yeah,
not what I was thinking.
it's a real simple question, and actually
Okay.
requires 1 or 2 sentences.
Well, it's worth
But
10 points. So I was like, okay, like I'm gonna say all of them.
that's Dr. Upledger. Well, you can say, for example, or you know, when I'm working diaphragms, this is what I feel, heat or this or
Right.
that. If I'm
Okay.
in the cranium and I've got an osseous restriction, it feels very tight, and then I feel it let go and the bone lifts or the bone moves, or I sense the feeling I get is that the bone is moving. I mean, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And I believe in the study guide, it's only a paragraph or 2.
Yeah, right. It's just real short.
Your study guide is the holy grail.
Okay, well, I don't have a new study guide, and I tried to get it from, I'm a medallion member, and I tried to get it, and I still can't get it. Like I emailed them, I
Oh,
tried to get it.
it's on the medallion membership thing. You can actually pull it up. I will
Where?
send you a link.
I was
to an
looking for it.
email.
I emailed them, I tried to get it, and I'm like, I just don't have one.
Yeah, you
'Cause I
can't
took
get
it
it
like
just
20
on the
years ago, and I
regular.
wanted a new one.
Yeah, you can't get it just on a regular website.
No,
No,
yeah,
I
if
know,
you
but I
go into the
emailed the
medallion
institute. I
membership,
emailed the institute, and I didn't hear back from them.
you
And
need
they
to call
didn't
them.
get back with you?
I need to call them. Okay.
Yeah, they'll pick up right away.
I just don't have time to call during the day, so but I will try.
Yeah, and you know
I
the
will
other
try to send it to
person.
you and show you how to click on it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
But that, I don't think you can you print that out, Dorian? I don't think you can print it.
I think you can print, but the pages have watermarks on
Yes.
them. So if you
Will they
want
send
a
me,
hard
will they send me
copy,
one?
if you want like a hard copy of the study guide, they will sell you one. But that's
Okay.
what Mabel's saying. You've got, like, you can't just order it through the website. You have to call to
I have
order
to call
a
to
study
order.
guide.
Yeah.
Okay,
And like I said, we have no idea when the new one will be coming out.
right. I'm not gonna wait for that because I'm
Oh,
gonna do it before that.
You just
hey,
said-
get it done.
You
and
just
get it
set your
over with.
bar higher.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm just gonna do it. I'm doing
Yeah.
it this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to say that's my challenge with answering these questions. If it's worth 10 points, I figure that they want a lot more words than
What-
another one.
What we want is the answer to the question.
Ugh, okay.
For
You
the
know, I
for the
mean, some
release,
of those questions, like that
Anything.
one that says, describe the 10-step protocol. And it's worth what, 10 or 12 points?
Yeah.
There is
I have
one
that one too.
question on there that says describe the 10-step protocol. And I don't remember which exam it was on, A or B.
A.
Yeah. And I mean,
I
it's
think it's
like
on both.
you could do one has the 10-step, and I think the other one has sphenoid
Mouthwork.
and interoral or something. I'm not
Oh, then I
sure.
had
Palate.
A.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, each one of those questions in themselves, when you describe step 1, diaphragms, that's could be 20 push per in itself. So, and we're not looking for works of art, so it doesn't have to be literally War and Peace, the size of War and Peace. It's it's like, okay, step 1 are the diaphragms. And here's the protocol for treating diaphragms. And then something like what differs is the hand placement. So for the pelvic, it's this, and for this is you got that one done. Now you move on to step 2. So it's not like you have to write the same exact thing for every single one. But if you say, here's the protocol for all the diaphragms, here they are, here's the hand placement, you got it. So you don't have to as a matter of fact, I remember on my tests when I did it, I think I had that 10-step protocol, and there was a sphenoid thing that, and when I went to something else, it said something about either sphenoid or still point, something I'd already described. I just told them to go back to page 3, 4, question number A. And that was the answer, because I wasn't rewriting it all over again.
Yeah, we've talked about trying to integrate questions, look at different angles. Like we're talking about the occipital, the OCB tonight and the dural tube. And one of the things I was going to say is if you have these questions, then think about your 10-step. You can either refer it to the 10-step or vice versa. And then also with mine, they accepted some bullet points. The release,
Yes.
I did, I think, 2 sentences and then bullet points.
Exactly.
Because I did put more into it than Mabel said too. So I realized that could have been shorter now.
And you can do that. You can do A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, bullet point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't have to write every word out as if you were doing it, a book or a book report or something like that you use in school. Because as a matter of fact, the easier it is for the examiner who's correcting that paper to find those bullet points, to find those things, the less confused they're going to be about what you write.
And I've had some people send me that they drew pictures like of the pressure stat model, and they said that they got full points for it. And
Yeah.
I did a chart for one because I couldn't figure out how to say what I wanted to say. So I did a chart and they said, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, really, the more concise yet complete you can be, the better they like it. So, a lot of people think they have to do 60, 70 pages, and that just gets tiresome and confusing. And a lot of times you'll say something you shouldn't be saying. So I always say, read the question, see what you think they're asking for, and then outline the answer. Oh, they want to know how many of these, and of those, which one is this? Okay, so how many? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of those 5, which one goes to the second question? Oh, number 3. And then I can work on number 3. So try to kind of outline it for yourself and see what the question is really asking for. And don't, I think, especially those essay questions, try to read into them something that's not being asked, because they're trying to be very specific. I have been working for the last 3 years on updating the updating the essay. And it's been a real challenge. In 3 years, what we have gotten done is we finally got the questions, and I was working on getting all the rubrics done. And now they tell me we're going to change things. So I just stopped. I said, I'm not going to put any more energy into this until I see what the new questions or the different questions are going to be. So some of them will stay the same, like the one about the 10-step protocol, like the one about mouth work. All of that's going to be the same. But what may be different may be related to dural membranes and their relationship to cerebrospinal fluid, or autonomic nervous system and its relationship to cerebrospinal fluid. Some of those things may be changed. I don't know yet. So that, I think, is the big thing, is to just try to figure out at this point where you're at. And if you're feeling comfortable with where you're at, I would just go for it as soon as I could.
Yeah, and just
Because
go ahead. Sorry, Mabel.
No, I was going to say, because at some point there, it will change. Don't know when, but it will.
Well, one of the things that I share with them is that this is a learning tool. This is not to trick you.
Yes.
So they want to know what you know. And so write down what you're going to write down, and then go and look at it and say, did I over answer? Do I need all that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the same thing in person. And you're allowed to get some wrong. Everybody looks at getting that 100%.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's okay
Right.
if you get a couple things a little bit wrong.
And I thought it was very interesting because I read one where it was asking them to identify the listening stations. And what are you listening for? You know, that whole, square and all of that. And they identified pretty much every place on the body. Well, then you don't know the listening stations, although they had the 7 listening stations, but we don't listen on the arms, and we don't listen. And that wasn't set as well, you could also, but that wasn't what they were asking for. These are the ones, here's the hand position, and this is what I'm palpating, and to see what comes to me with respect to square. And then you might have to look at square, the symmetry, the quality, amplitude, and rate of the rhythm. And that's it. But if you're going to give me a whole bunch of stuff that really isn't true or necessary, I have to mark you down on that. Tells me you're not real sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
When would you not do the?
So
The
over
10-step
answering is
protocol?
not a good thing. Sorry, go ahead, Linda.
Yes, right.
No, I mean, when would you not do the 10-step protocol? Like, are there certain instances when you wouldn't do it?
Okay, how far have you gone in CranioSacral?
I just did advanced course a couple weeks ago.
Okay, so when you got someone on the table in the advanced course, did you start with the 10-step protocol?
No,
Why?
because they said to they said to arc in. So that's what we did.
There's one reason when you wouldn't do it. Right. Simple. Okay. That would be one reason. Another reason might be related to the fact that I'm listening to the body and the craniosacral rhythm. And, or I don't have time. So I'm going to concentrate on what the craniosacral rhythm tells me. And that's why it's real important that we really always tune into the craniosacral rhythm, because it will tell us at that point in time, where the most dysfunctional area of the body is within those listening stations. Is it in the pelvis? Is it in the cranium? Is it in the legs? So in that case, I may go right to that area rather than going to, doing the whole 10-step. And especially if my time is limited.
Right. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. So think about how you practice when you get to a question like that. Why don't I do it every time?
Right. I would like to, but you're right. I don't have time.
Yeah. Exactly. That could be a big thing. Yeah.
And
Or
that's
the
where it
fact that you
helps.
learned other evaluation tools and they take you to someplace like arcing.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
That
where it
kind
helps
of
when
thing.
you get when you feel like a question is too hard, take it to work with you. Take it to the table and focus on just that for a week or two until you get your answer. Because you have your answer. Who was it on one of the calls was talking about they have no idea what V spread is, I think, and then they go, oh, I do that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
We do. It's because you stopped giving it a name. Because you don't say to your person on the table, I'm going to do a V spread now. And what a V spread is,
Exactly. Yeah.
because you've become intuitive. And so the intuitive questions are often the hardest.
And I think that's the biggest problem when it comes to the oral practical, because we're just so used to being in our hands and not in our heads. I just go here, and then we have to think, well, why did I go here? Why do and because those are the type of questions that they ask you, and that's why so many people sometimes have a little difficulty with it, because they're in their hands. But when you're preparing for the exam, then you've got to move a little bit more into your head.
And it's not a trick when they ask you that. They are
Right.
your friend. They just want to know how you have become this type of therapist, what's going on. Because that was the thing that my imposter syndrome had really kicked in about. Because I work alone and I don't verbalize a lot at all.
I found one way that helps me keep in that mode sometimes is explaining to my clients, especially the new ones. Well, what are you doing? Well, this is what I'm sensing, and this is why I'm feeling. Do you feel something very similar? And that keeps me in that a little bit of head mode too, is to remind myself of why I'm doing what I'm doing and what I'm feeling. What do I do with what I'm feeling, and why am I doing it? Yeah. Yeah. So I like that idea of just taking it into the treatment and paying a little bit more attention that way. Absolutely.
Well, and that's one of the nice things about doing the group, is because I say, this is what we're going to be working on for the rest of the year. And so here's your question, here's your topic for next month. So take this to the table with you for a month. And then when you come on the call, if you still have questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
It keeps us a bit focused, and everybody's going to have some sort of question that relates to each of the topics that we're picking. And if you don't on your exam, on your essay, you will have that in the room. I think it's really important to, make sure you go through the book and see, is there something I completely forgot about that we did? Because you might have been tired and something, or you were focusing on something else in class and totally forgot a topic. Like the release is very short.
Yeah.
The main part of the conversation about the release is short, but then it gets brought up, sprinkled through class.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How is everybody on questions? And Mabel, do you have anything else do you want to stay for our quiz? Because we actually still have a quiz with 10
Oh,
questions.
I would love to stay for the quiz.
Okay, I highly recommend that everybody use an anonymous name. All right. Thank you, Mabel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, offering to come on and talk to everybody. I think that also helps calm everybody. Let me.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mabel.
Yeah, so nice of you to take your time to do this for us.
Yes.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Because I can see how it can be very difficult, when you're hearing all these things and not knowing what's going on and stuff like that. So I'm glad that you all are open to that. Yeah.
I'm waiting for this to come up. I'm going to have oops, what happened? All right, it's going to do a little noise. And so what you do is you take a picture of the QR code when it comes up.
Oh, I can't do that.
Well, you can still watch. Can you see the screen? Hold on a second.
Yeah, I can. Well, what do I see? I see you.
Okay, then you will see it. I'm going to bring it up now.
Okay.
Okay, Mabel, no yelling out the answers.
All right.
But please give me feedback on my questions if they're messed up. So take a picture of the QR code, and then it'll come up on your phone. And definitely do an anonymous name, because I know the pressure's on now with Mabel being here. It makes it harder. The brain. Somebody called themselves the brain. All right. Some of these I actually gave you longer time because I took a lot out of the book on these. Can you see this, Mabel? I can read it.
Yes.
You can't see it.
Well, I don't see it all. Wait a minute. Let's see if I can move you. There we go.
Okay, yeah, this is.
Okay, now I can see the entire question.
Okay. Did you see the answer to that one was true?
True.
And I also have it all written down, what page numbers everything is on as well. So did anybody want to discuss that one or know where to find that?
I didn't know how to enter my answer. I was clicking on the laptop.
Oh, okay. Do you know now? Do you know how to answer it now? Oh, you're muted.
I think so.
Okay. Maybe Linda and
I
Julia.
won't be anonymous, but I think it's false.
It was true. And it's probably just the way that it's written because it's a true false, and true false are very easy to get wrong. That's what I get wrong all the time. All right, next. And that one, if you guys need to know, that one is it's page 3 of the cranial 2. All right, next. Some of these are wordy and multi-select, okay? That was so that you could study more. Now remember, take your picture of it. Don't forget to take a picture of it before you answer and then after you answer. That way you can study from it. Oh, did anybody want to go over this one? So
I guess when you are on the dural tube, you can obviously do a traction from anywhere on it, right?
yes,
Yes.
And so where is the dural tube? And this is asking for multiple answers, which is why it's easy to get confused with it. But it makes you think more because there was more than one answer, which is why I put select all. So is sacrum a part of the dural tube? Is the cranium?
Yes.
And is
Yes.
the dural tube? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think the only reason anybody didn't get it correct is just because of how you're reading the question. And so that's one of the reasons I'm doing these type of questions, so that it helps you really pay attention to the question and the answer. And nobody got feet, which is why I think nobody really got it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of being inclusive. Next. Okay, so the correct answer on this one is the yellow answer, the foramen magnum, second and third vertebrae, S2. And your heads are in the way to get the exact wording. Hold on, periosteum of the coccyx. And this one, again, I created it so that you really had to take your time with it. I did give you extended time, but of course, when you take the exam, you'll have more time. So this would be one that could easily mess with your mind during the exam. So what I would do is I'd put like a little mark next to it to go back when you feel like you have more time to really focus, and then underline the correct part of the answer to take your time with it. Okay.
So it didn't get our results on this one.
Oh, not yet. Hold on, because I didn't click through it yet because I wanted you guys to actually be able to see
Oh, gotcha.
how the other ones
I
might
couldn't
have
really read
been.
it fast enough. It was so.
Yeah, so
weird.
this way, go ahead and take a picture of this so that you can see how it's written. Because they might also
Do you
say,
want the heat on?
they also might even say in what order,
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, what do you
Oh.
mean by second and third vertebrae? Which vertebrae?
C2. Oh, you know what? I was supposed to change that. I see
Yeah.
why. I did change it on. Yeah, I changed it on only one. Thank you. I'll go back and change that. Perfect. So the second answer is in the Cranio 1 class. Okay. And then this one is as well. And you're right, because I did go back and change it once, but I got sidetracked, I think, and didn't.
Uh-huh.
So good. I will change that. So thank you for catching that. So that shows me you're paying attention too. So for the dural tube release, the reason I did this one is I thought it would be really kind of fun for you guys to take a look at it for when you are looking at doing your OCB and your sacral, is that with the sacral techniques, you're going to be doing 5 because you have part 1 is attraction and traction release. 2 is medial compression of the ASIS. And then there's dural tube traction. And then there's rock and glide. And they're 2 separate ones. But that's how they're written in the book. So it looks like it's 5. But in your brain, if you want to organize it, you can do it as 4 because you can
Mhm.
combine rock and glide together.
You know, I totally read
Okay,
that
I have a,
question.
go ahead.
I read it wrong. I was thinking with just the OCB and the dural tube release being dural tube traction at the end of that, which is 5 steps.
Well, and I created this one to get you to think so that we could actually talk about how we can, like, if you want to do it that way, then you have 5, then you can say that there are 5 steps in both. So then that can kind of organize your mind in the exam. So if you, and you said you added traction to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I first learned it, I think there were 4 steps in the OCB diaphragm release.
There are 4.
But then didn't they add the dural tube traction to make it 5?
Yeah, but they took it out again.
Oh, I can't keep up with
And
that.
so that's why I put this in there this way, because I wanted to bring up this discussion.
Ah,
So what you can do, and I don't think you need to focus on there being 4 or 5,
Right.
but I want you to compare the OCB to the sacral techniques to get yourself familiar with each of them. And then you can organize it the way that you want, because for me, absolutely nothing came up as a certain amount of steps on this. You know, because of the fact that I don't think any examiner is going to say, Mabel, let me know. I don't think any examiner is going to say, oh, well, the traction is no longer a part of that. If you're saying there are 5 steps because you're separating rock and glide and you added the traction to the OCB, I can't imagine an examiner is going to be upset with you for that. Is that correct, Mabel?
No, but they may ask you a question about that. I don't think they're going to be upset with you, but they may ask you, is that truly part of the OCB release? And knowing the fact that it's not, but it's easily followed by there, because
Okay.
they have changed it in the latest book. It no longer is a step 5.
Which is where you say, this is the book that I had and this is when I took it. And then, you know, I can't, what would you lose as a point for that, Mabel? Would that be a point?
I don't know that you would lose a point for it, but I think it would be the fact that they would or should say that it is not part of the OCB.
Okay.
That but it certainly can be done right after that OCB.
Okay. So all this answer goes from page 49 to, goodness, it goes way back to dural tube. So take a look at those when it talks about the steps that you're doing. And then you guys can decide if you want to bring together the rock and glide and kind of call it one. When I did it, I separated everything. And so for me, I'm trying to say, I'll have to look it up. I'll highlight my exam because I did get 100 on that part. I did get full credit. So I'll highlight that little part of my exam so you can see what I did. But yeah, that's where the discussion comes in. You know, when you're with your examiner, it's not a problem for you to say, hey, I took this a while ago and that's what I remember being in there.
Yeah.
They're not going to say, oh, that's wrong.
Right.
They're going to communicate with you. All right.
Yes.
And that's why I put this in here, because I thought it was really thought-provoking to compare doing techniques to both, since they're equivalent to each other in the dural tube.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Nice job. I took that almost verbatim from the book, but there were so many words I had to cut a couple out.
Mm-hmm.
you guys get pictures of that one?
Uh-huh.
Mm-mm.
I will send you a picture of that in the next email that I send out for a reminder, okay?
Okay.
So that you can have it. Hold on, let me write it down. The trigeminal nerve is not.
Right. That's the one.
And that is going to be reread 50, 56 through 63 in Cranial 1. Get really familiar with that one. There's a lot of detail in that. All right, sorry, I had to write that down for myself. I will send that to you.
So why not the trigeminal nerve? Does that not go through the foramen does that not go through the
Correct.
foramen
Correct.
magnum? That's the only one that
Yes.
doesn't? Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Ooh.
If you guys want to get a picture of the screen.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another one because it was multi-select. It would have been easier to make a mistake on it, but I wanted to put all of these down in writing for you so that you could do a quick review. And real quick before if you have any questions on this one, I want to go back to the other one, Linda. If you look at the pages 50, 56 through 63 in the Cranial 1 study guide, it's very clear in there what does go through. And so that's really the importance of that. So you will not see the trigeminal nerve even listed. So you're going to look at what is the answer on that one. It's let me see, 50 through. There's the. So it's going to have a page for the glossopharyngeal nerve, one for the vagus nerve, and one for the spinal accessory. So basically, you'll remember, oh, trigeminal nerve wasn't even in there. So try to wash that trigeminal from your mind, just in case you get a question. I don't know what's on I don't have a copy myself, just what I took. So I create all of these questions. These are not exam questions. So might not even come up for you. And did you have any questions about this one?
Well, yeah, I only got 3 out of 4. So
Oh.
contraindication, children under 9,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
recent skull or neck fracture, Down syndrome, ligamentous laxity. Would it be ruptured ligaments?
Yes.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
okay.
Do you see how that's highlighted on here, or is that too hard to see?
I don't see how it's highlighted.
Okay. We'll send that one in an email too.
Well, I just wrote it down, so you're good.
Oh, okay. And that one is on page 65.
Okay, thank you.
So just trying to give you, so all of these are between 49, or most of these are between 49 and like let me see. Yeah, this is actually a good chunk. $101. Now, they're in other places in the book as well, in the books,
Mm-hmm.
but that's mainly where you will find this. So here again, this goes to the studying before you come in to kind of know where to find it, but taking it to the table. But a lot of this stuff you're not going to use if you're intuitively working on the table. And any questions that are select all that apply are going to be a little bit more difficult. That's why I gave you more time. It is to make you think more. All right, let's.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Everybody disappeared on that one. Not everybody. All right, so what would have been your concern on this one?
I was getting the atlas and axis mixed up.
Okay. So how can you not get that mixed up? Okay, I'm going to tell you my trick with that one
Okay.
is the L. The L would be straight up and down.
The what? That.
The L in Atlas is
Oh,
straight up and down.
Oh.
So if you think about your
gotcha.
head
Okay. I love that.
and
Thank you.
an axis, think about your globe is going to spin, right?
Yes.
So, but if you just remember one, then you'll know the other.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So stick with just the Atlas up and down. I remember that from second grade because I was so nervous about that in second grade when we did the globe.
Oh.
We were just learning about the globe itself, and I probably got it wrong, and that's probably why it stuck with me the rest of my life. I always do better when I get something wrong first.
Oh, shoot. Oh, I want to go back. I want to erase that.
But that's a good thing. This is practice. That's what this is for. Make your mistakes here. Make your mistakes here.
I read it too fast and I thought you were giving us the same question.
I know. Because I was, except for one word, which is why true or false stink. I hate the true and false questions. That's why I give them to you, because those are my nemesis.
Right. Okay.
No, but it's great because now you see that. So guess what? For you, Julia, what you're going to do from now on, when you have a true and false on the exam, you're going to put a dot next to it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have time left over, you're going to go back and check it again and take your time. And if you need to, underline certain words. All right.
Okay.
And that's what you're learning. It's not always that you're learning the craniosacral stuff. It's sometimes you're learning test taking, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Last one. Now, what did we struggle with on that one? Anybody want to share? You guys don't like those select all that apply, do you? It's harder that way, but it is easier for you to study that way. So I did a lot of those today because you're taking pictures of it and now you have this all in one place. So if you need a cheat sheet, you know, like an index card, you already have it.
Was it all of them? I can't, I don't know what the answer
It was
is.
not the to release traverse rings of the dural tube. And then
Right.
what I want you to do is I want you to look up what is the technique that releases the traverse rings of the dural tube. And you probably know it, but your brain just isn't there because at this point it's really late. So remember, this is practice. And I have to tell you that there's a huge percentage of doing these tests that isn't about you knowing the knowledge. It's about being nervous during test taking. Mabel's here. You might have done way better if Mabel wasn't here.
What does it mean to disengage the atlas and the axis from the occiput?
What's another word for disengage?
I mean, I figured that was too much.
That's
But
actually
is it written
taken
that
word
way?
that's taken word for word from the book.
That's the platform, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
So the page that it's funny because I know that I'm pretty sure that it's in CS1, but I have written down that it was from CS2 and I didn't write the page number on that one. I apologize for that, but take your time to look that one up. Did you guys all get a picture of that one? So Julia, you're now going to have to open every email that I send because I'm going to send two, if not this one. Do you want me to send this one too? Did you get a picture?
Well, I thought I got it right, so I didn't get a picture. I mean, I got the 3 of them, but it just says, I don't
I'll
know
send
who I
this
am
too.
up there, but
I'll send this one too. Hold on. Core intent. OCB release. What was the other one? I can't remember the other one that you wanted me to send. Shoot. I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't.
not the contrast for the OCB. I got that.
Oh, okay. That's because you said don't worry about it. Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about that one.
Okay. So this is not to get you stressed out and having you upset over it. I mean, I'm making these questions, I believe, harder than the exam because of the fact you're getting select all that apply. Dorian, do you remember any being select all that apply? Because I don't. I remember it was only one answer to everything, which does make it easier.
So I remember questions that were multiple choice, like A and B,
That's
Yes.
true.
B and C
That's true.
and D. So
Right, and
you
that's
guys
how
can
they
tell, I've
would.
already taken my exam, and I will say
Yeah.
that my objective portion of the exam was by far my weakest area because I'm not a good test taker, but I did still pass it. I thought it was going to be the easiest part. It wasn't.
Dorian, I feel the same as you. I felt the same exact way. And I know that true and false are my weakness. And the true and false, and I told my examiner, that's my weakest spot, is the true or false. And I saved them all till the end. I gave my gut instinct, answered it, went back, looked at it, and still got half of the true and false wrong or something. Everything I got wrong was the true and false. And the examiner's like, you know this. I'm like, but I don't do true and false well. So that's why I started doing this for the study group, because I find that happens with a lot of people. And now you can be looking at it in a question and quiz form so that hopefully it's a little bit easier for you in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always do my weakest stuff for other people because I'm like, yeah, my imposter syndrome. Dorian and I got the exam at about the same time and finished at the same time, but only because we were studying together. And we both finally got so sick of having the exam in our hands.
That's where I am right now.
I sent her a text and I said, if I say one more time that I'm going to go work on my exam, I think this is going to be the end of my life. I've had enough. And I just hunkered down and said, I'm going to get it done before my birthday. And I got it sent in a half hour before my birth date time. I had it done the night before, but it didn't get sent in until then. So I think we just lost Mabel.
Oops, what happened?
Oh, there you are. I think
I'm
you just
still
turned off
here,
your
but
video.
I don't see me anymore.
I think you just turned off your video.
Did I? I'm looking for my video on this. See, I'm on a tablet and I'm not used to my tablet.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Mabel. I have to go, but thank you so much.
There we go. Okay,
Well,
I'm back.
listen, if you guys know anybody working on their exam, send them my way, send them to my email or to the Facebook group page.
Uh-huh.
And I am going to be starting up the book club again, probably the beginning of the year, for preventing Alzheimer's in 10 minutes a day is going to be the next book. So remember October 22nd at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time for the hard palette. So start looking at the hard palette. Take a week to work on what we did today. Maybe 2, but you guys want to be done, Mabel said, within the year.
Yeah.
Mabel, just set your goals to be finished. So you guys have a great goal. I think this is awesome. I think this is really going to help you guys expedite. I wish that happened to me way earlier, right, Dorian? Somebody said you have to be done. I think one of the hardest things about this exam is that they don't put an end time on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Mabel.
Thank you, Mabel. Thank you,
Mabel.
Michelle. I
Thank you
appreciate
guys
it.
too.
You
Okay.
guys have an
Great.
amazing evening.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay.
How are you, Mabel? You good?
I'm good. I'm good.
That was way
okay.
longer than most of our meetings, but usually I do an hour and 15 minutes. So, and I would appreciate any of your feedback, which I realized on my email that I never